Hi, my name is Victoria Roddy, and I did my presentation on Dell Technologies. I'll be presenting to you today with my headphones on, as this is an electronic presentation and the microphone in the headphones makes it a little bit easier for you to hear me. So we're going to move over to a quick history of Dell Industries. The company was started in 1984 by Michael Dell with about $1,000. After 4 years, Dell went public and raised up to $30 million, and they increased their market capitalization from $1,000 to $85 million, which is extremely great. In 1992, they debuted on Fortune 500, and Michael became the youngest CEO on that list. We're going to jump forward a couple years. In 2013 was one of their big years. That's when Dell went from a public company to a private company, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And in 2015, they had one of the largest industry mergers, not just company mergers, in history, when Dell and EMC united to make a combined company and a global enterprise solutions powerhouse. So going over their revenue and profit, which is pretty important, the graph that I have provided in the slides is a really recent graph from the Register. They show that Dell is about $18 billion in revenue in the third quarter, which is awesome. So they have a little bit of net loss with their net income, but that's okay because they're still in the third quarter and they have tons of room for improvement. Moving on to their company stakeholders, as I did mention a few seconds ago, Dell is now a private company, so they no longer have stakeholders in the traditional sense of shareholders or public stock. Michael Dell took the company private in 2013 to have the company focus on long-term strategy without having to answer to things like Wall Street, and he owns about 82% of his company. They traditionally refer to their customers, employees, suppliers, shareholders, government organization, and non-government organizations as their stakeholders. And they're pretty engaged with them as well. I know that they hold conference calls throughout the year to talk about different topics that their stakeholders are experts in to get their opinion, especially for things concerning ethical decisions. Moving on to the SWOT analysis, which is pretty important. They have a lot of strengths and weaknesses. One of their best strengths is that they are the biggest brand name in the world for PC makers, and they also offer next day on-site product service. They were the first to do that as well, which is pretty innovative of them. They also have extremely low operating costs. Some weaknesses is that Dell is a computer maker, not a computer manufacturer, so they're unable to switch their supply, which sometimes can hurt them. They also do not attract a high college graduate student rate, which can affect their employees for HR. They have a great source of experienced workers, but they don't have a lot of younger workers coming in to bring that fresh perspective. Some threats that they have is that the industry is pretty large, and there's a lot of other options for customers to think about. Moving on to resource-based tangible resources, their financial resources are great as they're a multi-billion-dollar company, but they aren't able to generate many internal funds as they are now a private company. Their organizational resources, their structure has remained pretty static since the start, and it is still led by Michael Dell. Their physical resources, they carry a really great turnover rate with about 4-day inventory turnover rate. But technological resources, there's not really too many secrets in the PC industry, so they don't have too much of an advantage there. For innovative resources in the intangible resource-based view, Dell is not as strong in this as they piggyback off of other companies' ideas, which I think they could go a little bit more into and try to come up with some more innovation for their PCs to stand out. But as they are such a big brand name, I think that they're doing all right. They also have a really strong reputation, and they're known for thinking ahead with their customer issues and have great customer satisfaction. For their industry life cycle, it's hard to tell as technology is constantly updating, but growth has slowed in the industry. The idea of computers has reached its maturity, but the possibilities for research and development and the potential for them to evolve is unlimited. Some recent executive decisions that affected their company was that they went private in 2013. It was 5 years ago, and they acquired EMC for $67 billion in 2015, which was a lot, and some say that Dell might have overpaid for that. But they ended up making $74 billion in revenue right after the merger, so it seems like their risk paid off in that. They had a really smooth transaction with great communication, solid processing, and respect for company cultures, which was able to make this merger possible. Opportunities for entrepreneurship. Michael Dell himself is an entrepreneur. He started the company back in the 80s, and he's still running it today. And he says when he sees an opportunity, he wants to take full advantage of it, knowing that there must be a better way of doing something. They also support millions of dollars towards global startups for women entrepreneurs, especially in areas like Africa and the Middle East. They're ethical. Moving on to Dell's ethics, they have a really strong ethical company, and their culture is very committed to integrating ethics into daily decision-making and long-term decision-making for the company. As you can see from the screenshot, they provide some of their corporate beliefs in that. Just to give a quick overview of my management consulting analysis, I know I went a little over time, but I feel like it's pretty important to mention, is that Dell is extremely successful and they have a powerful brand name. It would be beneficial for them to continue this corporate culture's customer service and organizational structure, keep that intact. They should work on making industry headway instead of simply following the trends. Like I mentioned, that's something where they fall a little flat. But I believe that their profits continue to raise and that they are making excellent and well thought out major decisions as well as small decisions for their company, especially with things like that merger. I would say that the strategy they should follow is to continue taking calculated risks that they are and making their business as efficient as possible in supply chain. They already have a really great turnover rate, but I think they can do even better if they incorporate some more manufacturing and even possibly making some of their own parts if that's what they're looking to do in the future. They should also continue to have a great entrepreneurial spirit in their endeavors. As Michael Dell's an entrepreneur, he supports entrepreneurs. That, as you can see, will really boost them in the future. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. That's all I have to say about Dell. If you would like to see some of my resources and references, they're listed at the bottom of the presentation. Thank you.